Hey beautiful people, what is up and welcome back to my channel. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, we're just gonna dive right in because I have exactly 45 minutes for two reasons. One, the SIM card only has exactly, is it a SIM? No, it's a memory card. Ooh, child. This memory card only has 45 minutes and I'm actually getting ready to go out. I'm going to a Galentine's Day event and I did not look up the address. I'm trying to give myself an hour. Plus, I kind of want to run to the post office in the middle of this, so your girl has no time, so she's getting ready, and she's trying to do it quickly. So I figured I would just kind of like do a chat to get ready with me, which is kind of dumb to do when you're on zero time, but neither here nor there. If this is your first time watching me, welcome. I am Jamila. This is probably not going to be normal content. Actually, it kind of is because it's a chat to get ready with me. But on my little corner of the interwebs, I like to talk about high-end luxury and indie makeup, but how to get it at the best prices. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, if that tickles your pickle, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you have been here before, if you've been rocking with me for some time now, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say thank you guys enough because you guys keep me going. You guys, I'm so excited to come here every single time. Now, for today's video, I'm going to be kind of recreating a look that I did a couple videos ago that you guys really enjoyed. It was a really smooth purple. I was about to say sweet, but it was a smooth purple look that I'd done. And I actually used my ESUM palettes. So for today's video, I'm actually going to dig into my ESUM palettes again. A couple of them, mixing and matching to create that purple look. So what we're actually going to be using is the... Okay, I'm trying to take off all the covers. We're going to be going into the Harmony palette, which is the new release from ESUM Cosmetics, along with the Balance palette, which was the original matte eyeshadow palette that they put out there. And then finally we're going to be dipping into the number 4 Elevate palette, which is their all shimmer colorful palette. They have an all shimmer matte palette that you guys know I love, but we're going to dive into the all shimmer palette for this look. Okay, the hair is going to hair, so just let it go. Just bring you guys a little bit in, a little bit closer, and we're just going to dive right in. So have you guys been it's always weird doing these videos because you're kind of talking to yourself. But I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone is doing a-okay. I figured that for this video, what I would actually chat about is literally the most, I don't want to call it the simplest thing, but something that probably 2% of you guys care about. Is that a smart decision? Necessarily, no. But I need to talk to somebody. So I am going to talk to myself by talking to you all. And that is the new Avatar live action series. Let me know in the comments below, do you guys watch Avatar, or did you watch the Avatar cartoon? Do you like Avatar? If not, and this isn't for you, that's totally fine. If you just want to hear me ramble about it, that's fine too. If you haven't watched it and you're interested in it, this will have spoilers, so like, just letting you know, click off now if you don't want to be spoiled. But I just kind of want to share my thoughts on the series and see if you guys agree, disagree. And that is because I have been obsessed, well, not obsessed, but kind of obsessed with the Avatar series for some time now. Now, I started watching it in 2020. I don't know how. I think I just was like, I ran out of things to watch. We were in pandemic times. You guys know how that was. So I think I like literally just ran out of things to watch and then stumbled into Avatar, which is a series that I had heard a lot of people rave about. And I remember I had watched the Avatar movie when it came out and people absolutely hated it. And I didn't understand why, because I thought the movie was fine. And then I watched the series and I realized, oh, okay. Now I understand why people were pissed, because that movie, whoo child, they really messed up with that movie. They did that movie so wrong. So I understand why people were pissed. I understand why people were about that. But especially once I was done and I'd watched the series and I was like, oh, so this is what it's supposed to be. So this new live action has been this point of like redemption for the Avatar franchise, because people who watch the series know and love the series were like, y'all had a chance already to create something phenomenal. And now I'm going into the Balance palette to this purple room. Let me use those two. Y'all had a chance to create something phenomenal, but no, you messed it up. So please don't mess up this live action series. And can I say that they just did an amazing job? It's only 8 episodes, so it's a really quick-ish watch, because I think each episode is about that 45 minutes to hour timeline. So it would take you like a couple days to watch it. I watched it in 2. And that's just saying something, because I got caught up in it and I binged. Like, I spent the first day that I watched 2 episodes. And the second day, I got caught up and I, like, finished it out because I was like, oh my lord. The good things about the series is the bending. I think that they did a much better job with the special effects in this one so that the bending more realistically mirrors that of what was in the series. I can't really speak to... Oh my god, I'm breaking out. I can't really speak to the movie because I feel like I don't fully remember it properly. Because once I watched the series and I realized the movie was garbage, I was like, oh no. So I don't really remember every single thing in the movie, but I do remember that the bending in the movie was so inaccurate, so poor, so... The special effects were just horrible. So the special effects in this movie was great. And the first episode, it actually starts off with this really, really cool earth-bending scene. They actually show the history of Fire Lord Sozin, who started the original war. And I appreciated that. I appreciated sort of the backstory of that. And then we kind of like get into the series. In terms of the actors that they chose... I thought that they did a good job. I thought that they did a good job selecting the actors. I feel like I can tell that those actors and actresses are green. You know how you can just watch somebody and tell that they're acting? I could tell that for a number of the actors that they chose. Not that they were bad, but that they were green. And some things felt a little too scripted, a little too forced, and it's because you could tell that they were trying to act. So that was one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if you guys caught that too. It definitely felt like, oh, okay, these are not the most seasoned actors. But that being said, I felt like who they chose represented the characters well. You know, I went into this thinking I wasn't sure about Sokka, and he grew on me. And that was one thing that they did in the series, is they actually adultified it, if that's a word. I'm like pretty positive that's not a word. Now I'm going into the shimmers. I'm going into the deep purple. Oh wait, let's start here, and then we're gonna do pink. I don't fully remember how I created this look, you guys, so I'm kind of going blind on this, so it might not look exactly like the look that I'm telling you guys about because I don't remember how I made that original look. But I'm trying. But, yeah. And when I say adultified, is that when you watch the cartoon, it really is, you know, created for child audiences. So it has a lot of jokes in it. And even though the premise of the series is that there is this 100-year-long war that's going on, it doesn't feel super sad or, you know, the way in which a war is supposed to make you feel. And I feel like for this live action series, it actually kind of feels very, very sad. Like, they took the time to make it more adult. I think that is by virtue of understanding that the audience that's watching this, maybe we watched Avatar as children. Not me, because I watched it as an adult. But maybe they watched Avatar as a child, but now that they're an adult, they can handle something that's a little bit more realistic. So I felt like the realities of war were more prominent in here in terms of, you know, like, there are people that are being killed. I don't think in the entire series we saw anybody actually die. And I remember they actually made a joke about that in one of the in the last book of the series, when Jet, who was one of the freedom fighters, had died. They never explicitly said that. And I remember they were at this play and they kind of joked about it. It was like, wait, did Jet die? And it's like, no, he didn't. And that's because they never showed it. So there were things like that in the cartoon that really kind of sheltered us from, like, the realities of war in which there are people that are going to die. Now, the Avatar series, the original one, is quite long. So you could see that they took some liberties in how they developed this one. Both in terms of the scripting, like, they did take some lines verbatim from the series, but also in terms of the flow of the series. So, and I think that that's because when you do, like, a cartoon series, there are distinct episodes, and there was no way that they were going to do however many episodes that the cartoon had. So there were certain events that they actually kind of coupled into one. So things were happening simultaneously versus consecutively, which is how they were in the original series. So, for example, when in the series, Aang goes to one of the air temples and he finds these. They're not airbenders, but there's this group of like people that are living there, basically refugees in the air temple, and they have an engineer with them who's learned how to like glide. So they have gliders and whatnot. Now, for this live action series, they actually moved that whole scene from the air temple to Omashu. And I'm like, wait, what? And then they introduced Jet, who is one of the freedom fighters, at the same time. So that was happening together when those were two very different, distinct scenes in the original series. So I think that was a little bit hard for me to follow when I saw that they were introducing different characters simultaneously, because from the series I know that they weren't meant to be introduced like that. And I feel like some of the core pieces they actually kind of rewrote. So there's this episode, I don't know what the name of it is, but there's this episode in the original series where they are trying to get to Omashu, and they end up going into this tunnel, and they meet this band of musicians. Now, they did keep the song, because there's this really, like, catchy song. You know, the secret tunnel, through the mountains. So they kept the original song, but that whole scene was supposed to be all three of them. And by three, I mean Aang, Sokka, Katara going into this tunnel. Aang is nowhere to be found. Aang has been captured by earthbenders. And I'm like, that didn't happen in the original series. So that one threw me off a little bit, because I was like, what? Where's Aang? And I thought that was an interesting choice, because that was a pivotal scene in the series, in my opinion, because it kind of starts the realization of a love story between Aang and Katara. And I don't know if they just wanted to shy away from that, but they didn't. They also kind of like downplayed Katara's like of Jet too. So the whole kind of kiddie romance pieces that were in the original series, that kind of got wiped out. Now that I'm thinking about it out loud. Again, I watched this like last night, so bear with me, okay? So that being said, like I said, they doubled up on, or even tripled up on a couple of like episodes into like one scene at a time, which kind of made things difficult. One thing that I thought was an interesting choice, and that actually caught me off guard, was the interaction between Aang and Bumi, who is the Earth Kingdom king. Well, is he the king? Well, he's in charge of Omashu. And in the series, the original series, Bumi and Aang were friends back when Aang was in his own timeline, when he was like truly a kid. And when Aang re-emerges, Bumi kind of puts him through this test, but in the end, really has no ill feelings towards him. But in this live adaptation, they actually made a decision to make Bumi very, very bitter. So first, he's this crazy old man, which they kept, which was cool. But then he's extremely bitter. And actually, his fight with Aang is because he's upset that Aang left them. Aang, who is supposed to be the Avatar, left them to fight this war. And he has been around for 100 years, fighting this war, watching people die, as he says, making the impossible decision, you know, through like famine and all this stuff. Like, do I feed the soldiers? Do I give food to the orphanage? So I thought that was an interesting choice, because like I said, in the original series, they kept things relatively light. There were no like hard decisions that needed to be made. They didn't really dive into like, these are the realities of war, where you have issues finding food and you have to make impossible decisions that will harm some but will be inevitably better for the greater good. So I really, like, that struck me, because I was like, oh, this is serious. But I thought that it was a great decision that they made. Why am I getting so much fallout? Jesus. Now, in the end, Bumi does decide, does essentially forgive Aang, decide that it's time for Omashu / the Earth Kingdom to rejoin the war. And they make up, you know, like, they make up. But that was, I think, my sort of, like, first instance of, like, oh, this is going to get serious. In terms of the character Aang, they definitely still kept the kind of, like, friendly kitty vibe that he had in the series, which I think made a lot of sense, because the whole point of, at least from my original watching of the series, was that Aang was a child, and he always just wanted to be a child. Like, he didn't want the responsibility of the Avatar. He did not want to make this, like, he just wanted to play and have fun. I don't know what the original age of Aang was, or what it had been at that point in the series, but, like, the boy just wanted to have a good time. And now y'all telling him he needs to save the world. So I love that they kept that kitty nature of him. What else do I want to talk about? I'll talk about the final scene a little bit, but let's talk about the other main characters in this series, which are essentially the villains. So we have Zuko and Azula from the Fire Nation, and, well, General Iroh. I don't know if I like General Iroh. I'm not gonna lie. One thing about General Iroh in the series is that he was kind of funny. Like, he was the funny, quirky old man. And in this one, he's serious. And I get it, they did make the whole series just a little bit more serious than the original cartoon. But he's so serious. And I loved that kind of, like, quirky, funny vibe that the original General Iroh had. That it made me a little bit sad to see that they made him so super serious. As for Zuko, love Zuko. They did such a good job showing, you know, the impossible just sort of decisions and pain, and how he just wanted his daddy's love. I think that they did such a good job with Zuko. I was so happy with him. Also with Azula, quite frankly, I was very surprised by how much time they spent building the backstory of Fire Lord Ozai and how he treats his kids. I think that they spent a lot of time on that. They actually did a lot of flashbacks to him, and how basically Azula and Zuko grew up, and I thought that was so well done. Now, I will be interested to see how their characters continue to develop, because I think that they spent more time than I expected building out Zuko and Azula, because the truth is, in the original series, I feel like you don't get all of that character development until, like, what, book 3, book 4? So the fact that they gave us all of this backstory in the original, like, in this first season, I was like, oh, okay, that's different. Okay, these eyes are looking a little bit crazy, and that's because I know I'm rushing, but, oh, let's ignore it for now. I'm gonna try to dust away. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Okay, this is an insane amount of fallout, you guys. Like, what in the world? I feel like I don't remember getting this. It might be because I'm using a brush. You guys know me. I'm the queen of going in with my hands for eyeshadow. So it could be that I used a brush to apply the shimmer shade. So something to note if you are going to use this with a brush. Okay, let me put on some eyeliner and then we'll come back and I'll continue on. Okay, we're back. We're going to go in with our Milk Mattifying Primer. This is a really, really good one, you guys. And I find it so hard to find a good mattifying primer these days. It's so hard. Anyways, continuing on, they did such a good job, like I said, picking Zuko, giving a lot of backstory, in my opinion, to the whole Fire Nation thing. They even went so far as to talk about how General Iroh's son died. I heard that they made a strategic decision, or not strategic, but well, they made a decision not to do the Leaves from the Vine song that General Iroh sings for his son. And that was an interesting episode when they did it. It might have been a tribute song, a tribute episode, because I believe the original character, or the original voice actor for General Iroh did pass away, and that was, like, the last thing that he did. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not, like, deep into the fandom, but let me know if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I'm using my Tom Ford Traceless Foundation Stick today. That's because the theme is quick. Y'all know I don't got no time. But like I said, I think they did such a good job giving all of the backstory, particularly for Zuko and Nufi Nation. One thing I thought was interesting is how long they took to introduce... Oh, I cannot use this brush. This is a buffing brush, so I'm going to use that instead. Anyways, one thing I thought was interesting was how long they took to introduce the last Avatar, so Avatar Roku, which, as far as I remember, didn't they introduce him super early on? No, they didn't. I was wrong. Never mind. But I thought it was cool when they did the whole Kyoshi thing. So he goes to Kyoshi Island, and Kyoshi basically takes over his body and does this whole like fight scene. That was actually kind of dope. So that was really cool. In terms of fighting, we do see Aang do a lot of airbending. We know that he's very comfortable with that. Even in the original series, that's kind of what he sticks to. But what I found interesting is that in all 8 episodes, we don't see Aang learn any other type of airbending. Which, the whole point of the first book, as I understand, was they're going to go to the Northern Water Tribe so that they can teach Aang how to waterbend. And I think the thing that bothered me about this, about how it was portrayed, is that in addition to Aang learning how to waterbend, it was really important also for Katara to learn how to waterbend because she had no formal training. Now, I don't mind the fact that her grandmother gave her a set of water scrolls for her to learn along the journey. Like, that didn't bother me. I was totally fine with that. What I did not like was essentially the way in which they portrayed Katara learning waterbending is that she figured it all out on her own. And I'm like, but that's not how that happens. Now, they did include the fight where she confronts Master Paku, who is the trainer at the Northern Water Tribe, because they make sure to point out, women aren't allowed to fight. That was a big deal in the original series. Women aren't allowed to learn how to fight, so she challenges him. She loses because he's a master. She doesn't know what she's doing. She challenges him. She loses. And he figures out that she's the granddaughter of this woman that he was in love with, who actually left the Water Tribe years ago because of those antiquated ways. So then he changes his mind and teaches her how to fight. None of that happens in this series. Katara learns how to fight by herself, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. It does not make a lot of sense how Katara learns how to become a waterbending master by herself. Also, what was the reason? It seems kind of unnecessary. Because not only does Katara learn how to do waterbending by herself, become a master by herself, Aang doesn't learn a lick of waterbending. Not a piece, not a drop. And I'm like, but that was the whole reason he was there. How could he not learn waterbending? I just didn't understand it. And you know what? I'm all for women empowerment. And I think that we're at this point now where every series has some sort of female empowerment scene. But I just didn't think it was necessary. I think they could have kept to the original script and just let Master Paku teach her how to waterbend. I really didn't understand it. Going back to what I had originally said about, here's the reality of war. One thing that they did do in the series was that they showed, that sort of siege of the firebending tribe on the Northern Water Tribe resulted in people dying. The original series does not touch upon that at all. So this one, they actually introduce us to characters who later die in that battle, which of course that had to happen, Even in the cartoon, the way in which Aang, when he goes into the Avatar state, the way in which he destroys all of those ships, people died, but they just never address it. But here, they took the time to show, these are the realities of war. People are going to die. So that was pretty dope. But I do think it was an interesting choice that they made to not have Aang learn any other waterbending style, because now I'm like, so how's he gonna learn? Because what happens in the original series is he starts his waterbending training with Master Paku, and he finishes it up when he continues on back to Omashu to learn earthbending. Katara continues to train him. But in this, Aang learns absolutely nothing. And every time he goes into the Avatar state, every time he fights, it's with airbending solely, which is more, as you all know, defensive and evading. And when he goes into the Avatar state, we don't really see him using any other form. So that's just That's just my thought. Except for when, what's her name, Kyoshi took over his body and we saw like the true power of the Avatar. That was dope. That was probably one of the best scenes in the entire series. So that's it. You know, like that is really my thoughts on Avatar. Not that anyone cares. I just thought I would share them. Okay, I'm gonna go finish up the rest of my face off camera because I have nothing else to add to this conversation. And then I will come back, show you guys the final look, and then get the heck up out of here. I think I have maybe 20 minutes left. Okay, I'm back. This is the final look. Like, the hair is still a little damp because I always put water in it to refresh it. So it's gonna shrivel up a little bit. So ignore it for now. But this is it. This is the final look. You guys have seen the bob before, I think. I'm like really happy. I don't think I said what else I was wearing on my face, but let me just quickly tell y'all. I'm wearing the new REM bronzer and blush, which I've been testing the last couple days. I did have a first impressions video on it, and I've been wearing that pretty much non-stop since I've gotten it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely phenomenal. And for my highlights, I did go in with an oldie but a goodie. This is the Dior Backstage. This is 001 Universal. I do believe that this is finally back in stock. And I'm wearing Tracy on the lips. I think that's pretty much it. That's all you guys really need to know in terms of what else I'm wearing, because that's pretty much it. But yeah, this is the face. I'm very happy, very excited. I'm wearing this really pretty kind of like magenta dress for this Valentine's Day. And yeah, even though my blending isn't the best today, I am very happy with how this turned out. I now have to go because I figured out it's 45 minutes away, and it is, yeah, I have exactly 45 minutes to get there, and I need to eat, so. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the Avatar series. I'm really impressed so far. I'm very excited for season 2. I hope they don't take forever and a day to film season 2. I hope they're already in the middle of filming. That's what I'm saying. But I'm really excited. Let me know in the comments if you are interested, if you liked it, if you don't care. Like, that's totally fine as well. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. And I didn't tell you guys, I'm obsessed with the palette. Just so you know. But thank you guys so much for watching. That's it. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, all that fun jazz. You know the drill. I appreciate y'all so much more than you know. Be sure to leave a orange or a purple heart in the comments, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!